There's a phrase which is gathering popularity here on YouTube and over on Twitter, and that's, "I don't dream of labour." It's a response to the question, what is your dream job? We're primed to think that our job is our purpose from a very young age. And it's really refreshing to hear people be honest and say that they don't dream of labour. Hi, welcome back to my commentary on life. I've seen loads of videos come up of people saying that they're not pursuing a career, not chasing a dream job, and not turning their hobbies into a hustle. I don't dream of labour is the cry of people who are sick of pretending that they find work fulfilling. I want to take a look at where this has come from and if it will move us forward into an alternative. So why do we work?
As I promise, like, and even it's been a weird these past few months, knowing that.
Why did we move away from living freely on the land, hunting, gathering, looking out for each other, and surviving as a community? Well, these survival activities were work. It's just that instead of getting paid, you survived. Back then, everyone was a key worker. In its brief history of work, Sergio Carreda explains, labour on the land became organised around collective tasks linked with the cycles of the seasons, agriculture and animal husbandry, and around tasks associated with the establishment, maintenance and growth of fixed settlements. The ownership of lands and of the produce of the earth became the first element that created human hierarchies and the concepts of ranks in some cultures. I don't want to dig too deep into how ownership became a thing, but I mean, how do you look around and think, we're doing pretty well, staying alive and such? I wonder if I should just say that the land, which everybody needs to survive on, is mine now. Then everyone will have no choice but to owe me because the ground, which they exist on, belongs to me. Yeah, that's fair. So then trade becomes a thing and you can still hunt and gather and produce things, it's just that you can swap them with others based on what you need. But as society grows and the balance of who owns what begins to skew, we get to a place where some people hold a lot of power based on what they own. And it gets a bit out of control because, well, it's better to be the person that has more than enough stuff to survive. I'm going to skip through a lot of history, but if you want to read about it, go for it. I'm sure it's interesting. I just need the highlights. When you hoard resources and wield power, you can convince people to do things for you in exchange for you giving them the resources that they need to live. Things like wash your clothes for you, or build a monument of you, or whip people that refuse to build a monument of you, which leads us to non-survival work. Medieval times saw the beginning of an essential movement of workmanship. Work becomes a mission, and the output becomes a soul-fulfilling endeavour, often linked with a religious seal. And as work diversifies, hierarchies begin to form. The Industrial Revolution brings factories to the world, and I am really sorry, really sorry on behalf of all of us. I'm so sorry. A Scottish scientist called Adam Smith publishes a paper in which he describes how the division of labour can increase productivity. He is considered the father of capitalism. Jobs begin to be designed in an unrelenting quest for efficiency. The worker does not possess the results of their work anymore. They have now become employees in a new type of relationship, employer to employee, that will define the central discourse of work for the contemporary era, epitomised by the work of Karl Marx and socialism after him. Beyond the creation of the job, capitalism continued to evolve in order to keep people wanting to be part of it. Work is fulfilling. Work is your purpose. People who don't work and enjoy their time got there by doing hard work. So you should work harder to be like them. And you should enjoy working harder. Being busy makes you an interesting person. You should spend the money you got from working hard on stuff. Stuff that makes it look like you're in high society. Shiny stuff, flat stuff, big stuff, lots of stuff. This is how you show other people that you are important. You will work until your body can no longer cope. Everyone will clap for you and make you feel like you've completed life when you finish work. So after watching a lot of videos of people talking about how they don't dream of labour, I noticed a few things that kept coming up that I think hint at why we've got to this point. First off is an overwhelm of decision from a young age. You're told that you can be anything that you want to be. That sometimes comes from your parents, from your teachers, but overwhelmingly that comes from media, be it traditional or social. You're also pressured to choose a career path very early on. In Scotland, you start choosing your school subjects from the age of 13. So at that point, you already need to know if you want to go into the sciences or the arts or the numbers. This leads to kids making decisions on what they want to do with the rest of their life based on employability. I can remember when I was at school and people would talk about, well, I'm going to study this to go and do that because there's jobs in it. And I remember just thinking, but you have no passion to do that. You have absolutely no interest in this subject. You are just doing that because you think that it will get you paid many years down the line, which is a whole other absurd side of it, because when you're 13, you're making decisions about a job that you're going to do in your early 20s. There's almost a decade apart. And if you can imagine, for someone like me who was at school in the noughties, the early noughties looked very different economically to the late noughties. So it's kind of pointless making a decision at that point. I kind of did this, so I chose subjects based on things that I thought there would be jobs in, and I really sucked at the subjects that I chose. And there was also an element of my school was just a bit piss poor and didn't really have a lot of options. But yeah, basically at one point, despite really knowing what I wanted to do with my life, I ended up taking subjects because I thought, oh, but there may be jobs in that. But back to why people don't dream of labour. Your first job is very likely to be an unskilled role. This means that you don't need a qualification to do the job, and you'll probably receive a little bit of training when you get there in order to just be able to do it. But it's no surprise to anyone that these jobs are extremely stressful. The absence of a qualification necessary to do the job somehow makes it okay to underpay people who are using skills in communication, forward planning, problem solving, skill juggling, and much more. Then there's also this push for passion as a focus of employment. You not only come in and do the job well, you have to be passionate about it. You have to be in love with the job. You have to think about the job when you're at home. You have to research competitors and see how they're doing it and try to be better than them. And you want to come into work ready to discuss how you can do this job better. I've worked for a lot of companies who had passion as a value of theirs, and they would often align things that you did as a business with the values. So every single person had to make sure that they were extremely passionate about whatever it was that they were asked to do. Even if it was something that you didn't enjoy doing, objectively no one would enjoy doing. Cleaning a toilet, how can you be passionate about that? Work environments also generally cater to traditional nuclear family dreams, which are just not relevant anymore. There is no wife at home doing the laundry, cleaning the house, and cooking a gourmet meal for the husband and 2.5 kids. The reality is overworked people, whether they're in a family unit or not, having to deal with everything outside of their work as well as everything inside of their work. That's why people don't dream of labour. So what is a dream job? I don't know if I've ever really been asked this, and I don't know how I would answer it. I honestly don't know if there is a dream job. I've always known that I wanted to be a filmmaker. I've always admired film's power to entertain, to educate, and to move people all in one package. I also knew that I wanted to be part of that from a very young age. I can remember in primary school people asking what I wanted to do when I grew up, and I would tell them I wanted to be a film director. I made home movies during my teens, and after school I decided to go on and study media at college and then filmmaking at university. I'd like to take a moment to thank the Scottish Government for paying for all that education, because if you hadn't, this would be a very different story. So when I talk about what my dream job is, I talk about all the things that I like about filmmaking. I love coming up with new ideas. I love being on set and collaborating with all the other artists to bring our art to life. And I love to edit because I love to see all the hard work of everyone in the production come together. But filmmaking is tough. It's filled with long days on set, early starts, late finishes. It takes a toll on your mental health, it takes a toll on your physical health. It can be very grueling, it is non-stop problem solving, your brain feels fried, you have to make so many decisions at one time. So many people are asking you questions that you don't know the answer to, but you just have to improvise. I used to really buy in to the sleep when you die mentality. Work is out there to be done, and those who do more than what's expected of them will be rewarded. So I poured myself into work. My cup overfloweth with work. All of this stuff, this culture, this you must be working otherwise you have no value, it really does build up. I went through some pretty traumatic experiences last year, and I didn't take time off work because I was worried that I would fall behind. Nowadays, when someone is fired, made redundant, or is off work for an extended period of time, there's no cover. The work is just added to the workload of the other people who already work there. This happened in a lot of jobs that I've worked in, so I got used to it. I began to realise that if I did take time off, then I would be coming back to the exact same amount of work and the exact same deadline, effectively giving myself less time to do it. It eventually got to a really bad place where my work was putting a lot of pressure on me and I was feeling like my life wasn't worth living. I wrote a diary entry where I talked about what I wanted for my life. Give me a different life. Sunshine, peace, breathing space. Driven by purpose and will. Every action my own. The exact balance of pace, productivity and success. Unconditional love. Healthy choices, smooth days. Exhilarating nights. Laughter, patience, virtue. Deep conversation, ration, logic. Movement towards an ideal. Fairness. Decisions that put me first. A calm inside that processes all info and events and tells me it will be alright. I ask you, Ash, give me this life. So that's what I dream of. How do we get there? In my last video, I talked about the financial independence retire early movement, where people work their butts off in their formative years and save up as much as they can. They then retire much earlier than they planned to, sometimes this is in their 30s, and then they can live the life that they want to. It is a viable option, but it does involve working intensely in those early years, saving rigorously, living pretty frugally, and budgeting the entire rest of your life. So what about universal basic income? This is a standard, unconditional payment given to adults on a regular basis. If you were furloughed, it's similar. You're not working, but you do get paid. It's to cover basic living costs, so it's very similar to universal credit, or benefits as they're also known, but there's no eligibility criteria. Everyone just gets it. It not only replaces the money given to unemployed folks, but also people who cannot work. And because there's no eligibility criteria, you don't have to worry about proving that you cannot work, you will just defaultly get it. Various versions of universal basic income have been trialled around the world, including in Finland, where 2,000 unemployed people were paid €560 per month for 2 years. Researchers found the scheme left those happier and less stressed. It also said that it didn't aid them in finding work, but that's not really the point. If someone wants to work and earn more money, they're welcome to. But if someone wants to develop a skill, wants to learn, wants to give something a try, then they have the freedom to. It feels like the article reporting is a little bit afraid that people won't want to work low-paid jobs. And if that's the case, then maybe we should be taking a look at low-paid jobs and questioning whether or not they're fair. Think of the musicians who are out there right now who don't get to go gigging every Saturday night because they have a shift at a local fast food restaurant to make ends meet. Think of the coders out there that will never be because they can't afford to go into full-time education. Think of the people out there who could change the world if they weren't stuck earning minimum wage. So I get why people say they don't dream of labour. I know some people will say, if you do what you love, then it isn't work. But I'm going to retattle the retittle of that rebuttal with some poetry by Khalil Gibran. Work is love made visible. And if you cannot work with love, but only with distaste, it is better that you should leave your work and sit at the gate of the temple and take alms of those who work with joy. For if you break bread with indifference, you bake a bitter bread that feeds but half man's hunger. And if you grudge the crushing of the grapes, your grudge distills a poison in the wine. And if you sing though as angels and love not the singing, you muffle man's ears to the voices of the day and the voices of the night. So what do you think? Do you have a dream job? Or do you not dream of labour? If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. And if you know someone else who might enjoy it, please share it with them. Write a poem about how they should quit their job, watch my video, become a staunch socialist, and overthrow capitalism. Or however you want to share it is fine. See you next time!